This video is in defense of Lieutenant Paul Vance of the Connecticut State Police. He has become somewhat of a poster child for the Connecticut gun ban on assault weapons, and I duly note that the guns that were banned are not really assault rifles. The distinction between the guns that were banned and an assault rifle is that an assault rifle is an automatic weapon where if you keep your finger pulling the trigger, it keeps firing, and the type of guns that the Connecticut law calls assault weapons, you have to pull the trigger once for each bullet that is fired. Lieutenant Vance had a conversation with someone who called herself Ashley, and he has gotten a lot of heat over that. What the thing is mostly about is the Connecticut assault weapon ban. Okay, with regards to that ban, there was a shooting at the Newtown, Connecticut school called Sandyhook. It is very sad because 20 youth were killed and 5 teachers and the mother of the shooter. She was killed at her own home. Because of this tragedy, the legislature passed some feel-good laws, and they decided to ban certain guns that they call assault weapons. They call them assault weapons because they look like assault weapons. It is a dumb law. I don't think it makes very much sense. One, had it been in effect when the Newtown occurred, the Newtown incident still would have occurred, assuming that Adam Lanza's late mother, Nancy Lanza, would have registered her guns. Second, there was a federal ban on assault-type weapons that occurred from 1994 to 2004. When that ban expired, the crime rate went down. Also, with regards to the ban, the type of weapons that are being banned are not the type of weapons that are used in street crime. With regards to the Connecticut ban, it is likely constitutional. You never know what the Supreme Court's going to say. The courts have determined, or in our system of government, the courts determine what is constitutional and what is not. In United States versus Miller, which is a 1939 Supreme Court case, the court said that the United States had the power to regulate sawed-off shotguns. The McDonald and Hiller's case found that states and the federal government cannot ban handguns. Dicta from Heller indicated that, like most rights, the Second Amendment is not unlimited. There was more dicta. Miller's holding that the sorts of weapons protected are those in common use at the time finds support in the historical tradition of prohibiting the carrying of dangerous and unusual weapons. So whether or not it's constitutional will be somewhere between sawed-off shotguns, which the Supreme Court has found can be regulated, and handguns, which the Supreme Court found could not be banned. On January 30th, 2014, U.S. District Judge in Connecticut, Alfred Covello found that the ban was in fact constitutional. So until the circuit court or the Supreme Court overturned that decision in Connecticut, the ban is constitutional. People who don't like it could also take it up through the Connecticut court system and see if it's unconstitutional on the basis of the state constitution. Lieutenant Vance was called by someone claiming to be a concerned citizen named Ashley. Ashley was trying to bait him. He said two things that, taken out of context, would sound inappropriate. First, when he was talking to her, he said she was un-American. That little snippet came out of an exchange where she was essentially telling him to disobey the established law because she thought the ban was unconstitutional. She gave no citation or authority to support that proposition other than she felt it was unconstitutional, and because she felt it was unconstitutional, she thought it was inappropriate for it to be enforced. His reasoning was, although not explicitly stated, that if the police chose to not enforce any laws that anyone would say were unconstitutional, then there would be chaos. I think that's what he was referring to as being un-American. For example, say someone decided that freedom of religion meant that you could sacrifice to God anybody who was inconvenient for you to have alive. Then he also said he was the master. That, if you take that saying in context of what they were talking about, she said he had to do what she said because the people are the masters and the police are the servants. She did not take into account that he too was a citizen of the state of Connecticut, so by her terms, he was in fact the master. Then Lieutenant Vance was the command officer for the communications unit of the Connecticut State Police. Different states handle their policing differently. Apparently in Connecticut, much of the street policing in much of the state is done by the Connecticut State Police. And his job was to be the commander of the information unit, and neither he nor anyone under him was involved in street policing. Then, listening to the whole conversation, essentially what he said to Ashley was the following. He also told her if she is unhappy with the state law that she should contact her representative in the state government. Her response to that was that the representative was corrupt. He also told her if she wants to know what her rights are under the gun ban, she should contact an attorney. She wanted him to say he would not enforce the law because it was unconstitutional in her eyes. Such a request, if followed, could cause chaos if you're having street police determine what is and what is not constitutional on the street. And secondly, he said that it's the policy of the Connecticut police to enforce laws until they're found unconstitutional by either a federal or a state court. She did make a veiled threat that it would be unsafe for the police to confiscate guns. Well, it's also unsafe for the police to do drug raids. Finally, she inferred that the police would go door to door looking for guns. They cannot do that. They cannot go into a house unless they have a warrant, and that warrant has to be supported by probable cause. Any judge, if they went door to door, any federal or state judge would throw out the seized evidence in a nanosecond. So essentially, what the fuss is about Lieutenant Vance is that he was stating what the law is, that the police enforce laws until they're found to be unconstitutional, and they do not stop enforcing laws because someone called up and said the law may be unconstitutional. I, at this time, could not say if the law is or is not unconstitutional. I can say that the courts have previously found that regulating and banning sawed-off shotguns is constitutional, and that banning handguns is not constitutional. Where assault-style weapons would fall in that continuum, I don't know.